Today is Thursday, December 12th, 2019, and this is a meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee meeting. This meeting is being recorded by the Bernardston-Northfield Community Television for future broadcast. It may be streamed live when available to do so. If the members of the committee could please review briefly the norms that have been provided and expectations. And then we will begin our evening with citizens' concerns, total of 20 minutes, 3 minutes per citizen. So please come to the mic if you'd like.
I would just like to let the committee know as a whole that the 4 towns met on Monday night. John Schedule, the superintendent, attended. People were very happy to see him there. No decisions were made, but at least we got talking away about things, and so we feel good about it. So thanks a lot.
Hello, my name is Thomson Edie. I'm a retired PVRSD teacher. And I just have a short, about a 2-minute letter that I would like to read. Dear PVRSD committee chairperson and members, I am writing with a concern, a request, and a suggestion. I am concerned about the inadequacy of the current sound system in use at Pioneer Valley Regional School District Committee meetings. I request open access, and I offer a suggestion for improvement. Anyone who regularly attends meetings knows that before every meeting, the audio-visual technician reminds committee members of the necessity of speaking directly into their assigned microphones. Despite this routine sound system training, members for the most part neglect to do so. I believe I understand why. In the throes of pressing issues, it is easy to forget the mandate to speak directly into a microphone. Consequently and unintentionally, open access is neglected. As the evening wears on, the committee and the public get tired of the microphone requirement. Compliance understandably goes by the wayside. Nevertheless, open access is the law. As a senior citizen who is also hard of hearing, I know firsthand the disadvantage of effective exclusion from important district matters. During meetings I've attended, I've witnessed as many as from 5 to 10 blurts from the citizenry of, "Use the microphone, please. We can't hear you." These cries should signal to committee members the need to be more conscientious about microphone use. These exhortations from the public might also indicate that the current sound system is not serving its purpose. I want to emphasize here that my intent is not to blame committee members. If the mandate to speak directly into the microphone is too burdensome, then maybe the sound system should be upgraded. One solution is a 12-channel head microphone system. In my opinion, this is affordable, would be less of a burden for members, would ensure compliance with the law, and most important, would provide consistent open access to the public at every Pioneer Valley Regional School District Committee meeting. The cost of such a system could be mitigated by its use at events other than PVRSD committee meetings. I hope the committee will accept my concern, my request, and my suggestion as friendly and a potential means of furthering the goal of open public access to Pioneer Valley Regional School District Committee meetings. I would personally be very grateful and much relieved to be able to hear and thus participate more effectively in the workings of our governance. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Would you like to provide a copy of that letter, please? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any other citizens' concerns? Okay. Moving along. The minutes from November 14th, 2019. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Minutes from November 14th, 2019 are provided. If we could review these, please. Yes, Karen.
On page 1, we have one instance of the misspelling of Gina's name. Second paragraph under Roman numeral 1, there's no T in her name.
Okay.
And unless the name of the school has been changed a couple of times in here, we have PVRS as PVRHS. We haven't changed that, have we?
Nope.
Sorry, Tom, and everybody else.
Any other notes? Corrections?
I move the minutes as corrected.
Okay.
I second.
Okay. Any discussion? No? All in favor? Okay.
What's our plan for minutes?
So, it is my understanding that she may be late or she may not be able to attend. So what she will do is she will write the minutes from the audio.
All the more reason to talk into the microphone.
Yes. Okay.
Do you need to audio record what the votes are?
No, because they're also video recorded. All right. Go ahead, John.
I'd like to start off by recognizing Chris Mullen, the principal and third and fourth grade teacher at Warwick, for her outstanding work this year in her dual position. Chris is ill today, so she's not able to join us. She was expecting to be here. But Chris is serving as a principal and third, fourth grade teacher at Warwick Community School this year and has received her master's in administration in 2007 from the University of Phoenix. This is her first principal job, but she has served as a third and fourth grade teacher in Warwick for 8 years now. Chris had been a teacher leader and the district mentor coordinator before this. This is her 18th year in education, having taught all elementary grade levels in special education. Chris has been handling these two very different positions with ease. Her multi-age classroom has been tackling reading, math, science, and social studies and continuing on as normal with the help of a classroom assistant. Chris does all of her teaching prep at home these days because she gave up her prep time to perform principal duties. She is attempting to balance both jobs by setting office hours for her administrative responsibilities. She averages about 4 hours a day on these responsibilities in addition to her full-time classroom responsibilities. During admin meetings, she is eager to think creatively, work collaboratively, and obviously puts the district and students first in all of her decision-making. She has made many efficiencies in the Warwick budget as well. This year, Chris has made an effort to involve outside agencies in the community during school events such as open house and is starting up several after-school clubs for students. She's been working to build relationships within the district as well. Both shared specialists and Warwick staff and parents have been very impressed with Chris's leadership style and how she is balancing both roles. She's been a wonderful addition to our admin team. And I just wanted to really, acknowledge that because it is a difficult position, one that's very unique, and I just think she's done an outstanding job. Also, Ella Poti, who sits at our table. I'd like to recognize Ella for recently receiving the 2019 and 2020 Superintendents Excellence Award. Ella, her parents Ruth and Stephen, brother Benjamin, and sister Jane joined Principal Burke, teacher Matt Colleen, and myself for dinner at Franklin County Tech last Thursday. Ella and 8 other exemplary 12th grade students' achievements were celebrated at the annual Franklin County Area Superintendents Association dinner. And I just wanted to give you a brief summary of my speech. I'll try to read fast, but Ella really deserves a recognition for her outstanding years here at Pioneer in our district. The 2019-2020 Superintendent's Excellence Award recipient is Ella Poti. In making this selection, Ella's academic accomplishments, contributions, leadership, and character were all important considerations. Ella has a cumulative GPA of 3.99. She's been described by her teachers as an exemplary student as well as a strong leader. What is most notable is her commitment to academic excellence. Ella has consistently chosen the most challenging courses, including 6 AP courses, and has excelled in all of them. During her years at Pioneer, Ella has been involved in band as a drum major, National Honor Society, president of the Student Council this year, and president of her class in 9th and 11th grade, student representative to the school committee, Ask School Match Wits, Envirothon, Prom Committee, member of Pioneer School Council, Spanish Honor Society, Student Advisory Council to the Department of Education, training active bystanders, grades 9 through 12, captain of the field hockey team, and captain of the track and field team, both indoor and outdoor, for 3 years. Outside of school, Ella's involved in teaching outdoor education at local summer camps, volunteers to work with students for Special Olympic events, and works at the Centennial House Bed and Breakfast in Northfield. I personally met with Ella to inform her that she was selected to receive this award, and I was not only extremely impressed by her humbleness, but also with the goals she has set for herself after high school. Ella plans to attend a 4-year liberal arts college and obtain her law degree. She also is interested in running for public office and working on policy reform. She displays a great attitude towards school, athletics, and all extracurricular activities she is involved with. It's my understanding that Ella has always been among the top students in her class, and I'm confident that she will thrive in any academic program or career that she chooses to pursue. This award is well-deserved, and we are proud to have Ella represent Pioneer Valley Regional School.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just say that Ella was also accepted to UVM 2 hours ago, as well as UMass,
Yeah,
Wow.
and
so far.
she's waiting to hear for others as well.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Ella, too bad you're such a slacker.
I know, right?
Now, what's the deal with 3.99?
1 A- junior year. I was taking 3 APs. It was a lot.
Should we call out that teacher publicly? All right, great job, Ella.
Thank you.
And I just want to update everyone on the potential of 6th grade moving to Pioneer. We don't have a timetable for this, so I don't want people to think it's definitely happening like this fall or even happening at all. But we just heard recently, this past week, from our financial overseer, Rick Kingsley, and Desi on potentially moving the 6th grade to Pioneer. They state that the 6th grade can be moved to Pioneer using the same process outlined in the special act. This process involves documenting financial impacts, the impacts on pupils, and disseminating information to parents through a public hearing and written materials. This information is then submitted to the commissioner and overseer, and if approved by the commissioner, the district has the authority to move the 6th grade. So our admin team has been meeting to discuss all aspects of this potential move. We're in the very beginning stages, but there's a whole process that has to happen. We're going to be sending out surveys to parents, to staff. We would have meetings with staff. We'd have open forums with parents and community members. So there's a process that we want to follow and make sure that we're thorough in following. There's no set timetable. I know we're trying to get the surveys out in January, and then we'll set that process forward. But we want to make sure that we involve all stakeholders in this because it's a big, obviously, decision. And we're not saying that we're definitely doing it. We're not saying we're not doing it. We're exploring it, gathering information, gathering input from everybody, so that education, a good decision can be made. Basically, something that everybody feels confident about. So we want to make sure we gather information from everyone. Next, the Massachusetts Rural Schools Coalition, I'm a member of, and they've been advocating on behalf of all Massachusetts rural public school districts since its inception in March of 2016. Since then, the coalition has made considerable progress in their work to deliver educational equity to students, but there's much more work to be done. As a result of our continued efforts, we have benefited from an additional $4 million in new funding for our schools through 2 consecutive years of rural aid. Pioneer's total allocation is $243,491. We are similarly pleased that our efforts have resulted in the establishment of a Rural Schools Commission within the Student Opportunity Act, which will put us in a position to continue advocating for a rurality factor within the Chapter 70 formula. Rural school aid is our contingency plan until such time. But in order to build on our progress and create a sustainable mechanism to advocate for rural public school students in the Commonwealth, the MRSC now holds tax-exempt status under the IRC Section 501c3. This nonprofit status has enabled MRSC to professionalize its organization structure, much like the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents and the Mass Association of Regional Schools. Beyond its advocacy for rural school funding, the MRSC envisions innovations for its members that will create economies of scale not obtainable as individual school districts. We imagine new funding streams from private sectors enabling cutting-edge educational opportunities for our students, such as computer science for all, innovative use of technology to connect classrooms across MRSC school districts to expand curricular opportunities for our students, as well as enhance professional development opportunities for our teachers, and the establishment of a shared service center enabling access to critical educational positions such as instructional coaches and other specialist positions to support our students and teachers. So MRSC is asking all districts who are members for financial support, which will help the MRSC to become a sustainable champion for our rural students. They are asking our district to make an annual contribution of $750, and that's on the agenda later on tonight. And these funds would be used to support essential costs required to operate the MRSC as a nonprofit. I personally recommend paying the annual contribution and supporting this. So I think it's a great thing, and obviously we've seen the results. And I brought in 2 guest speakers, so I'm happy that I want to welcome Bill Deal, the Executive Director for the Collaborative for Educational Services, who will give a brief overview of CES and their work with our district. So thanks for coming, Bill.
You bet.
Yes, of course.
In those, and I think there may be 2 extras. Anyone wants one? Hold the mic close, it says. So thank you very, very much for giving me some time this evening. I'm, as John said, the Director of the Collaborative Educational Services. I was in Northampton. We're one of 25 collaboratives in the Commonwealth. Most districts belong to one another collaborative. And we are a collaborative of 36 member school districts in Franklin, Hampshire County. I believe at your last meeting, perhaps, you voted to approve adding 2 more members. We appreciate that. And that will bring us to all the districts in the 2 counties will be members of the collaborative. So I want to thank Superintendent Skagel for his support. I want to especially thank Mr. Young for his service on the board representing you. And of course, our chairperson, I appreciate your time and support as well. So what I want to do is just spend a little time on this. You have a very busy agenda, and so I want to brought some papers along just to speed the process a little bit for you. I think some of you don't know much about the collaborative. There's background information you can take and look closely. I want to focus on what we're doing with you. So as we're looking at mending our agreement and entering 2 more districts, I've been going around and meeting with all the school committees. That's 36 school committees. And it's a lot of evenings, of course. But every time I do it, I'm always in awe. So our school committees are small and large. 3 people, there are 5 people, there are 15 people, represent all kinds of communities. And every one of those people, every one of you in this room are volunteers. You put yourself out there, you are elected, you come to these meetings religiously. There are good times and bad times, there are disagreements and there are agreements. It is a lot of work and a lot of sacrifice and a lot of effort you put into this on behalf of bettering outcomes for the kids in the community. And I always am touched by the fact that I'm looking at all these people who are giving so much of their life and their heart to that purpose. Whether you agree or not on some things, still we're all in this together. So I want to thank you. I mean, I get thanked enough. I want to thank you for your service in this regard. So in your folders, I'll just go this relatively quickly. The first couple of pages are just background in case you don't know much about the collaborative. The first page gives our mission and core values. So we are focused on leadership, on collaboration, on a number of different areas that support schools, with a special focus on kids placed at risk, children and families placed at risk. And we really value collaboration. Even though our agency sits in Northampton, we actually are made up of the member school districts. You guys own us. So the collaboration is a collaborative of all of us. And we really strive to be true to that and serve people. So that's the first page. The second handout in here is our goals and priorities that we're about to redo this. And just want to point them out really quickly, our 4 goals. The first and foremost one is serving member district needs. So we do spend a lot of time trying to understand what the needs of our districts are, We have superintendent meetings that John comes to, we have school committees, we have all kinds of ways we ascertain what needs are and then try to meet them. So much like the rural schools, we're doing it statewide for rural areas, we're doing the similar kind of thing for our member districts. And that's a really important part of what we do. The second of our goals is in terms of providing programs for children, youth, and families. This ranges from a lot of special education programs, after-school programs, early childhood, a number of different areas, in many cases areas that individually our small districts couldn't do well or effectively, but collectively they could. So we're kind of that glue that helps us do some programs that individually would be hard to do. Our third goal is about developing exemplary educators. We have a licensure program, for example. We have some educators who are going through that. We do a lot of professional development services. We have a number of teachers that take part in that. So we do a lot in terms of helping develop and support excellent educators, not just teachers, but also professionals, administrators, and so on. And the last one is innovation. So we really strive to work with districts and teachers and so on to look at new ways we might be able to bring funding in, new ways we might be able to serve our kids, improve their education. So that's what we focus on in all of our work. We also, in addition to that, we use the grants for the state in terms of providing education for all the kids who are incarcerated and all the kids in special education institutional settings. So those are also work that we do in keeping with our mission of really serving some of the most at-risk youth in the Commonwealth. So I'm very proud of the work that we do. We have a great, wonderful staff, and I hope you're taking advantage of it. The third thing in your folder is a services overview, which I won't go through, except to say that this lists all our services. It includes business services like cooperative purchasing, of which you take part in. It includes the kind of professional development we do, the services we do. And on the back are our member districts. It lists our member districts on the back. The more important document is behind that, this colorful chart. And this we put together. This has not been updated. I realize this evening as I'm putting stuff together because it's missing some of the things we did with you right now. But this lists our member districts. The far left-hand column lists our various programs and services we do, starting with special education at the top, going down to all the professional development we do. We do research evaluation services. We have health exams in communities that works with kind of school-based and surrounding services, technology, early childhood, enrichment programs, and cooperative purchasing. And on the back side of this, or the folded side, are the Franklin County districts. And you can see what Pioneer Valley is in this chart. And we're working with superintendent in terms of looking at some ways to expand that. We'd love to work more with you guys. And I think I think all of your teachers and administrators kind of know there are areas we might be able to work more with you in terms of cost savings and bringing increased professional development, for example, in the district. So this gives you kind of some basic information. The chart, the paper behind that is a little bit bigger deep. This is some examples, not everything we do, but some examples of the things that we're doing with Pioneer Valley. That includes, of course, your elementary schools as well. So the first slide, the chart itself, is the open enrollment. These are courses that we put on that teachers sign up for and come to. They come to individually. And then we also do some in-district programs with your teachers as well. For example, we do reading and recovery at one of your schools. So this is an example of the last year and a half or so of the different courses your teachers have taken with us. And the back of it lists, again, examples of some of the programs that we do with you. So we have Reading Recovery Consortium, you're part of that, you're part of our cooperative purchasing, you can find some cost savings from that. You have an academy, Tech Academy, which is especially for young people who have behavioral and discipline issues. And you had one student there graduated last year, another student there now. And we're also supporting 2 new programs I'm sure you've heard about in collaboration with the Pioneer Valley, which are serving other special education students. And hopefully we'll also be able to draw students from other districts who will pay tuition into it. So in the process right now, working on those, establishing them. And I think the early childhood one has got legs at this point. We have some students in that. So we're really pleased about that collaboration that we've got going on with we hope there's more. There might be other opportunities. Otherwise, you might be able to help you with cost savings, other programs or services. We have a few early childhood things we're doing with you. Our early childhood department is primarily housed in Hampshire County, but you take part in some of those. Alternative youth programs, this is an area of expansion for us with Pioneer Valley. So we have two different contracts, one with the Regional Employment Board, called something different now, to do connecting activities, which is to help set up internships for young people in high school. And our person with that's working more with your high school and doing that. And I think more importantly, we got money from the governor's office to do something called STEM at Work. And this is a program, we run it, it is a free program. So we basically, our guy, Matt Rigney, sets up internships in STEM fields and then has students from Pioneer Valley, other high schools, apply for and get them, and the employer has to pay them for it. So it's not a free internship, free work, but it's summer work that's kind of real around STEM efforts, especially for kids who aren't typically in that area. And we're getting some things going with Pioneer Valley around that as well. Pleased about that. So there's just a few examples of things we're doing with Pioneer Valley. We're really pleased with our collaboration with you guys and hope we can expand that as we go forward and do more to help you and help your fiscal situation and also help your kids. Behind that is the chart of our current professional development offerings. And behind that is this one little card. I don't know how many of you are aware of this. This is another kind of service we provide for our member districts. And this basically is based on the fact that we recognize that most of our member districts, they don't have a lot of capacity to get word out about the great things that they do. Everyone's doing great things. And so this is it's a Facebook site that we maintain, and we kind of take things from different districts and put it up there. So we have all kinds of cool things from the different districts in Franklin, Hampshire County, and we collect them there, and there are a lot of people following that. We have a number of things from your schools on that, and it's a way of us helping toot our horns about the great things we do in Western Mass. The last thing I want to mention is we've been really active with working with legislators. So we convened several different meetings that Superintendent Skagel came to, and I think a couple of you did as well, with our legislators to really help promote the new act that came through, and also really promote some things in that act that are really responsive to things especially important for our rural districts. One example of that is we really worked with legislators to raise up the issue of special education transportation. I mean, if you have out-of-district students, you know that's a big cost, and the new law allows some reimbursement for that. It's a cost that rural districts bear much more than urban districts. So it's a rural district thing, and we have a legislative delegation who is really behind us. So we're really pleased to help with that and help move that forward. So that's my presentation, and I'm always open for suggestions, ideas, how can you improve things. You can go through me, the superintendent, David, whomever, and we're really glad to hear ideas and help promote collaboration across our districts. Anybody have any questions? David, yes.
Besides, I remember attending a conference on education and technology, and it didn't seem like it was that far away, and it was, but what I want to say is that if you're not after a PDP, if you're a board member and there's room, you can enroll, and the cost is very low.
That's right. That's right.
So
yeah,
tell us about it.
very low, meaning basically whatever the cost of the conference is. So if there's a lunch, you pay for lunch, but there's not a conference fee above that. It's kind of a perk, if you will, for our school committees and people involved with the collaborative. So thanks for pointing that out. And we were going to have another one of those. It's actually next year. We've also done equity for social equity for school improvement conference 2 years. We have another one of those coming up, and then we have the Ginny Tate legal issues seminar, which also is a large seminar that people can come to. So thanks for pointing that out, Dave. That's something we're pleased to be able to do for you guys. Other questions or comments? Thank you very much. And I wonder if I might indulge you to sign the, if you haven't already.
We signed at the last meeting.
You did? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
How do you feel like?
Thanks, Bill. Now I'd like to call up Maureen Donovan, Project Manager for HRSA Telebehavioral Counseling Grant, and she'll share information regarding telebehavioral counseling here at Pioneer. Thanks for coming, Maureen.
I don't think I want to go after Ella. I'm sorry. No. It's time for me
Big
to
shoes
leave
to
now.
fill.
Yeah. Well, I'm really a walker when I talk, so this is going to be a little difficult for me. My name is Maureen Donovan. I'm the Telebehavioral Counseling Program Manager for Haywood Hospital, Athol Hospital. I run $1 million HRSA grant, and what we do is we have community health workers that are in schools, and we have remote clinicians, and we Zoom, via Zoom, and with a HIPAA-compliant platform, counseling sessions to students in schools. We're the only one in the state. We have RC Maher and Athol right now in our program, and you are in our program. Surprise, and let me tell you how. And I see a friendly face there, and nurses, hi. Back in the day, we were writing this $1 million grant, and I realized that Warwick was in our catchment area. And I knew Erica Mason, and I had known your school district for a long time. And I was saying, look, you know, I really want to bring another district in. We don't have the funds to fund them at this time, but we could use them and work with them as a treatment as usual school, so we could follow some students' data around assessments and how they're doing just normally in a normal school, and compare them to the students that were receiving the treatment. In that agreement that John made and had that vision to make with Erica, we are providing a salary offset for Erica's salary, as well as $2,000 in training to your district for the next 3 years. At that point, and I'm hopeful, and I'll be sharing this with you right now, a little bit of side talk that's going on in the world around us, because tele is becoming very popular, that we will be rolling this out here. This is my goal. I don't retire until it happens. And I say that because I do have I was a teacher for 20 years, a health teacher, 7th and 8th grade, and I even love the smell of schools. So I really want to give this to you. And right now, we've had 93 students. I left out a school district, Narragansett Regional. We have 93 students in the program. We've had 1,830 clinical sessions since January for our students. And what happens is the community health worker coordinates the program in the school, becomes an embedded staff member in the guidance department, and we have an office in the school. No one, it's not marked or anything, but it's the tele office. And our clinicians work from home, and they Zoom in, and they deliver clinical services to our students without life interruption in school. The community health worker checks in with the student when they come in, when they leave. If they've had a tough session, we make sure that we're there for them. There's no leaving a student, you know, alone, like, oh, go have your session, and then, well, it's not going so well for you, too bad. That's not how we roll. And we have very specific policies and procedures that we've developed as well with forms around this. I was just at the State House presenting about this the other day. And I was in a room full of legislative aides, and we had a student acting the role, and we had the clinician zooming in with a microphone, and everyone was crying at the end of the session, and it was only 5 minutes, and I was like, why are people crying? We didn't want people to cry. We wanted people to celebrate this program. But unfortunately, you know, it was a role play that was very intense about a student. His uncle died of an overdose, and it hit some people hard. We are working with legislators now to looking on expansion of these programs for the state level, and looking for mandated monies sent to our way to expand, and you're first on my list. I say that because you've been so supportive in helping us with looking at everything and being able to compare the other schools to the students that aren't receiving this right now. I feel bad about that. I don't like it, but it's just the way the grant was written. And we have another big grant coming down in April 2020, which is a school-based telehealth grant that we will be applying for expansion. And actually at the Hill right now, they are doing a behavioral health bill, but they're being very hush about it. That's where politics comes in. and so we don't really know what's going to happen for us, but we're really hopeful that something even may come down sooner. So, like, don't quote me on that, because no one's talking. But I really think that this is sort of the wave of the future, and you know, students love it. They don't have to leave here, it's access, you're used to screen time, correct? So they'll walk into a room and there's our little floating heads, and I don't call them that disrespectfully, but the clinicians, and you can actually take them everywhere. You can take them to IEP meetings. You can take them into a meeting with a guidance counselor and a parent. You can take them, and those connections are really, really super amazing. And the community health worker also works with community resources and creates a safety net for families. So we talk about, we don't have enough oil, or things are hard at home, we have food insecurity. They can help with resources there. So it's a really fabulous program. I don't know how I got here. I'm very passionate about it, but it's a kind of a strange road that I find myself running this program. But I just wanted to come and talk, just let you know that you're on my list. We're working really hard for you, and I thank you for allowing us to collect data. I thank you for letting us be. You are known as the number 3 in this grant, even though that we're not giving that specific program to you right now. But I'm very excited about it, and I'm very excited that it's going to come your way soon, I hope. But does anyone have any questions about it?
Just thank you so much.
Yeah. If I could say a quick comment, if that's okay?
Sure.
As someone who I've been treated with both clinical depression and anxiety, and having this, I've been troubled by the lack of talk about behavioral health and mental health in public schools, and so I'm just really excited about this. So thank you so much. That's
And
all
I
I want to say.
have to
Thank
tell you, the young man who was at the State House doing this presentation for us, at the end of the presentation, he was one of our students.
Oh, nice.
So he presented not using his real name, but then he told everyone about what he's been through and how important the program has helped him.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important. Behavioral health stuff, we have kiddos with anxiety, and we have with self-harm, and we have a lot of stress and family stuff. And there's trauma, early trauma, right? So we want to be able to be there for people, and we're working really hard to do that. But I want to thank John and his vision, and Jean Bacon prior to this principal that got right on board with us. And now we are just ready to help out as best we can, and we really want to move this forward. So I will keep him in the loop and let him know. Yes.
I just want to say that Maureen presented this to a school nurse conference that I attended in August. And at that time, she did mention Pioneer District, and I got very excited about it. And so I had opportunity to speak short time with Maureen after her presentation. And I was so pleased for our district to be able to start entering into this phase, because as a school nurse, I see how the anxiety and the depression and the cutting is happening mainly among middle school age kids. So it's an unbelievable service, and the fact that we are so rural, to get to appropriate counseling is not easy. So
well, I've heard a lot of words.
Program.
I've heard a lot of words here today. Innovation. I've heard rural, and this is what we do. So the goal is to really just keep you guys in the loop. If anything comes down sooner than later, I'll let John know immediately, and then I'll be back to ask your permission. But right now, I'm moving it forward, and I thank you so much. I want to leave my card here. If you ever want to come see it in action, I invite you to come, and we'll take you on a tour of the schools we already have in play. In that handout I gave you, there are pictures about what a classroom looks like, some of the clinical outcomes we've seen. So that has tons of information. And so anytime, reach out, and I'm out here, and I'm here for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen.
Thank you so much. I can take these. That's my own. Thank you. Thank you.
Moving along, we have our Director of Finance report. So hi, Tanya.
Hi, good evening.
Tanya, hold on 1 second.
Hold on 1 second. Jeannie has a question.
I see a new piece of equipment in front of you. What is that?
I'll let John.
Oh, this is just like a speaker system that will help, everybody hear Tanya a little better, hopefully.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, the floor is yours.
Tanya.
All right. So before I go over the financial reports, I just kind of want to let everyone know what we've been doing. We are working on budget. We have worked through half of our budget sections currently. We've been meeting with the administrative team on a weekly basis to prepare the budget, and we've been having budget meetings as well weekly. Our next one is next Wednesday. And as the budget comes together, John and I are working with all the administration to make as many efficiencies as we can before we bring it to the school committee for the public hearing on February 4th. So I just want to thank everyone who's been involved in that. It is a lot of work, long hours, but it's a very compressed time frame that we have to get this completed in, and we're definitely moving in the right direction, and everyone's collaborating very well. So I just want to kind of put that out there. The accounts payable, does anyone have any questions about the budget process or what we're doing right now before I move on?
I see no hands, Tanya.
Okay. Anybody have any questions specifically on the accounts payable report from Brenda?
I'm just giving people a moment.
Oh, that's okay.
People are just reviewing the documents. Questions? Any questions? Go ahead.
Am I reading this wrong, but underlined, it says budget 14,961, and year-to-date has been 15,024?
Tanya, are you
So,
able to hear that?
when we get to the budget transfers, you'll see that we went over by like $62 when we're all said and done with our closing out of Leiden with the 11,300 that we provided to the town of Leiden.
So that is not expected to be ongoing?
No, we're done. Like that was
Okay.
just our final cleanup with a couple of our, like telephone bills and dumpster things and stuff that came in
Okay, thank you.
after our last transfer to cover the intermunicipal agreement. So the 6235 will clean that up, and Leiden will be zeroed out and will not be in the budget for next year.
Are there any other?
But I'm just talking about the accounts payable report right now, so I haven't moved on to my expenditure report or anything.
All right.
So you guys good for me to go through the reports then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will start with the revenue report. It's the easiest one. You'll notice, and I did have some questions about this, so I sent an email ahead of time. Because we did not budget the full bond reissue as bond proceeds and the full payoff of our bond in the expense for debt principal, the offset between what we received December 1st for the new reissue and what the state will be taking out of our Chapter 70 from December and January to actually pay our bond off will net out to zero in this bond proceeds revenue account, and then there'll be a journal entry also done for the expense and interest piece. So when you see the January report, that will be zero. So that's just kind of a holding place right now, and we contacted the state to find out how to report it since we didn't budget the new incoming bond in the full bond payment as a full expense last year, how to handle that, and that was how they asked us to do that, so. But I did explain that in the email, I'm not sure if many of you got that, but that's what that's there for, it's just a placeholder, but will be zero. The tuition, just our Vernon tuition, I did follow up with the town of Vernon, and they had received an invoice from us earlier in the year, but there was a discrepancy with a student. So apparently they got rid of the invoice, waiting for a new one, but we resolved the discrepancy and sent them the invoice again because they didn't have it, and they're gonna be paying us right away on that. So we should show that as 75% paid at the next meeting. They pay 75% in November typically, and the other 25% in June. Our town assessments are on track, as they should be. Our earnings on investments, like I said, we have more interest than we had budgeted for because we're holding on to some funds that we owed back to the state, but that has also been resolved. The Medicaid, that's on track where it should be. We receive the bulk of our Medicaid usually in the third quarter. Transportation we won't receive till January and June, and possibly June, depending on the timing of when they approve reports and things. Chapter 70 is where it's supposed to be. We had some miscellaneous income just from some refunds and different things that we got for expenditures in the prior year. Anything that was expensed in a prior year that we get a refund on, or there's discrepancies on in the new fiscal year, goes to miscellaneous income, and then our charter school reimbursement. So we're looking good. Everything's where it's supposed to be from a revenue standpoint. Does anyone have any questions on that?
I see no hands, Tanya.
Okay. Moving on to the expenditure by category report. This is pretty self-explanatory. It just breaks down the full expenditure report by category. I do want to take some time on the actual expenditure report. We have quite a few transfers that are there that need to take place because of some shifts. So you're going to see, as I mentioned before, I'm keeping those negatives in the expenditure report and not actually doing the journal entries for those transfers until they've been voted. You'll see the liability insurance. So our insurance bill came in higher than we expected it to for our liabilities based on increases in costs, based on, versus what they told us last year. But we do have some savings in our workers' comp that we're using to transfer to cover that, so that's not an issue. If you move down to Bernardston, you will see a negative in their teacher salaries. This is also being covered by a transfer, but that was due to the new referral roads down to Bernardston. The teachers were allotted in the admin assistant some hours to work to, either move their classrooms or set up some paperwork and those kind of things. So that's what that overage is for. So you'll see a transfer in there from another teacher salary line where there was surplus to cover for that. We did add an instructional aide to Bernardston in an effort to maintain inclusion in a particular classroom rather than moving another kid to our high in Northfield. So the goal is to keep them in the classroom if we can. So this classroom aid was implemented to try to facilitate that, and there is a transfer you'll see in your transfers to cover for that from other funds. There's some minor transfers just between equipment supplies and equipment contracted services because of the way that was budgeted. We had some snow blower issues with our first snowstorm that needed to be taken care of. Again, if you go down to the line page, it's just some cleanup from final bills that we got once that was all said and done. Northfield, we just have some pennies there under, but everything else is looking good. We did utilize some of the teacher salaries from Northfield here to cover on the Bernardston, and that savings was from a teacher that was hired to cover for a teacher that was going to retire at the end of the year but had to leave early. So it was just a difference in step there. So we did capture some savings on the hiring of that new teacher. If you go down to Warwick, the only thing you'll see there is just the principal dues and subscriptions. We're writing that because, again, the 15th contract has funds for professional development dues. We did transfer part of that at the last meeting, and the remainder of that to cover in the transfers that you'll see in front of you. Nothing major here. Pioneer, we just had a couple small deficits there, and we just moved money from coaches over to cover coach clinic and league fees. There's typically a small increase in some of these fees every year. It's really hard to tell what those increases are going to be in memberships and dues. We do our best to estimate some of those. Shared is good to go, and special ed just had a small shortage in the computer supply and programming for instruction. Basically what happened with that is we bought Rosetta Stone this year to try to help with our ELL students, and we also still have the Read Naturally subscription that will be due here. The invoice comes out in December, so you'll see a transfer in your transfers to cover the current deficit plus the $800 for that Read Naturally program that will be coming out of their supplies budget. So if you can take a look at your transfer votes that you have that correspond to these reports, as well as the transfers for within the categories to clean up some of those items that you see in front of you. You guys can make a vote to accept those transfers. I will say there is a small change that I want to bring to your guys' attention. The special needs instructional assistant, that should say classroom instructional assistant. We just need to make that change and go with that account description change.
Excuse me. Do we have a copy of the transfers? We don't have that piece.
There should, that was emailed out with the original,
We took the public packets.
with my expenditure reports that were sent out. It was the expenditure reports, the expenditure by category, and the 2 PDFs for the transfer votes, and the ones that did not need a vote.
Expenditure, I don't have that.
Accounts payable.
We don't have that one either.
Do you guys, I don't have accounts payable either. Okay.
Transfer.
Or the transfer, I don't have either of those. Okay.
So we have 4 packets left, so if you want to pass this down, I pull them from those packets.
Do you mind if I have one? Thank you.
So maybe if you guys don't have those right now, maybe John can print them and have you vote on them at a later point in the meeting. They are in emails to all the school committee members.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay. She may have just made the 4.
Oh, perfect.
But the whole packet of emails to her, and make sure that everything is printed to you guys tonight.
Are there any questions for Tanya regarding the transfers? Any clarification needed? Yes, go ahead, David.
Tanya, after we make these transfers, in the end, the budget will reflect a new appropriation, and because when I look back in prior years, there's been, and perhaps a lot of that was prior to your service here, things were to the penny. Like energy could be $157,000 and 23 cents budgeted, and that's what was expended. And I don't believe that was actually the case. But going forward, our actuals will show this, and we can learn from it as opposed to.
Correct. So after you do these transfers and the FY20 budget is updated, I will actually be updating the FY20 budgets that are in our budgets that we're looking at for comparison in our FY21 budget as well. So that you have true comparisons year over year to be looking at. Is that your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
So if you guys could vote to do that, we can move on to the lunch reports, and I will be done.
So just to let you know, Tanya, Jim has just entered to the meeting.
Oh, hi, Jim. Hi, Tanya.
Okay.
How's the weather now?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve these transfers both within category and.
You guys don't have to vote the ones that are within the category.
That's just advisory? Okay.
So we just need the vote.
So I move the 12, 13, 19 school committee transfers.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor of moving the transfers? Okay, we're all set, Tanya.
Awesome. So, let's see, school lunch next, yes. So I am presenting the school lunch report tonight since Mike is not on as a presenter. You have both October and November in front of you, so we should be able to, like I mentioned in my email, present the following month. We have been able to access some of the data that we weren't able to access ahead of time before, because we moved the meetings up to the second week. Some of the information we used to get came out around the 15th, so we've been able to access that. So anyways, you have both months in front of you. We are in the black, so that is good. As I also did mention, and I just want to point this out because it has been a concern question of the public as well as the school committee in the past about schools with negative balances. Obviously, you see Warwick School Lunch has a negative balance. Each month, the revenues really cover the salaries for the service with about $300 left, which doesn't cover the food costs or the supplies or any of the maintenance and repairs there. As I mentioned before, unfortunately, regardless of how many students eat, you have that person there for a certain amount of time that's serving lunch, or this particular individual goes to Northfield to pick up the lunches and bring them back. So this is the nature of having that school lunch program over there, that it does cost the school lunch fund to operate that. There's no way around it. You have to have a person serving, and there's also obviously costs that are allocated for the food. I will say that Mike's doing a fantastic job of actually allocating the food costs better to each school based on the number of meals that were served and the food that was actually ordered to serve for that week, rather than just taking a percentage that gets allocated to each of the schools. So our numbers, I feel, are even more accurate than they have been in the past. So you can see for October, we're in the positive by 17,000, and then it drops to 13,000 in November. The reason for that is we have 3 pay periods in November, so it doesn't really, it's not really equitable as far as the amount of pay versus the amount of weeks really in November, but that levels out throughout the rest of the fiscal year. We always have 2 months, it's November and May. This year that there'll be 3 pay periods, so you'll see a decrease in that net probably in both of those months from the prior month, but again, it will level out as we finish the fiscal year. And the other thing I do want to point out too on these school lunch reports, now that we have accurate information and we're comparing, you can see that not only is our revenue up, but that's a function of an increase in our participation in our program. So you can see we went up 6%, 6%, and then November, the participation increased significantly when we implemented the breakfast after the bell program. So we have a lot of kids eating breakfast now that weren't before, and I'd really be curious to get some feedback from the teachers and the principals on how that's impacting the students today as far as being more alert and ready to learn too. So maybe when we have them at the next school committee meeting, they can maybe provide a little feedback on that for Mike and I. Any questions?
Go ahead, David.
The 6, 7, 13% increase seems significant.
It is.
I wonder if we hit 90% or 100%, how much money do we still lose? I mean, that would just kind of frame our what's baked in.
If we're having more participation, obviously our numbers can be more in the black. No matter how you look at it, because you have fixed costs and then you have food costs. Once your fixed costs are covered, the amount of lunches you serve just continue to increase your profit, so to speak. But those numbers are probably going to stabilize now. The jump from the 6 to the 13% was really based on the implementation of that breakfast after the bell. But Mike has also implemented more variety in our menu. He's done the Pioneer packs and the other packs of elementary school. So trying to get more students to actually participate in the school lunch program So you may see some further increases, but for right now, I expect those to stabilize.
Go ahead, Mike has a question.
Tanya, regarding the numbers for the financial that the state, we weren't getting monies recuperated from, how is that being handled now?
So that was like 6 cents on, so we get 6 cents even on the lunches that we get paid for participating in the National School Lunch Program. So that was rectified actually right for the beginning of the school year. So the 7th and 8th graders, that's gonna increase our revenue over the whole year. And I can't remember the number off the top of my head because we talked about it last time, but it wasn't a huge amount, but I feel like it was a few thousand over the course of the year. So that is reflected in our increase in our federal and state funding, mainly our federal funding year over year that we have. So if I look at my DESI report that we've done, which you guys don't have in front of me because that's what we do to report to the state, we are showing that our state reimbursements are higher over the prior years, either due to an increase in free and reduced individuals that we were able to get to sign up this year, and also partially because we're getting the funds for those 7th and 8th grade students that weren't marked as reimbursable in the past.
Thank you.
No problem.
Are there any other questions for Tanya regarding the lunch report? No?
Awesome.
Okay.
I'll talk to you guys.
Thank you, Tanya. Thanks so much. Okay. We've completed the signing of the warrants. Did everyone get the warrants? Yeah, okay. We'll begin with subcommittee reports, negotiations.
Okay. John, did you hear from our attorney? Is everything okay for me to speak about?
Yeah, they just
Okay,
sent
what
everything
we
to Brad.
said
They just sent
yesterday.
everything to Brad.
Okay. So last evening, we met with the PVU. I was speaking into it, but maybe I wasn't speaking loud enough. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Last evening, we met with the PVUSP, ASP, whatever. And we have a tentative agreement with them. And they'll be meeting with their people so that maybe we can get together in another month or so and do some signing and things will move on. And thanks to Kim Godfrey's cookies, things went well and life was good. So, yeah.
Thank you.
It's been a long, drawn out.
It's very long.
All right. Building and grounds.
Sharon's not here, so I was just going to give a quick update. So we've been meeting with Never Ending Solar Trust with Tom Strunjo. This was initially brought to our attention over solar by the town of Northfield. They were looking at doing some solar at their town buildings, and we've had some discussions with him about bringing solar here to Pioneer. So right now, we're looking at canopies possibly in the front parking lot, maybe in the back. So those discussions are still happening, and another meeting's going to be set up, to get more information and more numbers. I do know that, just on another note, LED lights are being replaced here in Pioneer in Northfield Elementary School, and Eversource, and there's a company, Earthlink, I believe, or that's putting those in. It's going to brighten up the schools. They said they've done it in schools and in buildings, all over the state, and they've seen some really good results as far as the lighting in the schools and how that affects children and learning, actually, to brighten things up a little. So those are going in. We'll see some cost savings there as well.
Can I ask when they're going in?
They're going to go in they're going to start implementing them here over the break.
Over
next
this
week.
holiday break? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Are they going to be replacing fluorescent?
They're going to replace everything, take all the mercury out. Everything's getting all the mercury is being removed. So they're replacing everything.
John, is Is this being done under a utility incentive or under a Green Communities grant?
It's under the Green
Or
Community.
both?
Yeah, it's under, I believe it's under both. And then there's definitely savings. Eversource is matching funds for this. And so it's great for our school district. Yeah, and then hopefully, at some point, maybe we could look at Bernardston Elementary and doing that as well.
It's kind of neat that utilities have figured out a way to make money on conservation. They basically opened, no, they have opened a window that, and it is so hard to permit a generating plant, et cetera,
Yeah.
that they actually make more money by getting us to use less power.
Any other questions for building and grounds? Comments? No? Okay. Curriculum and personnel.
Okay, we did not meet this month, but we have a meeting scheduled for January 6th. At that time, the committee is going to work on a shared school committee goal recommendation to bring to you, a shared goal for the superintendent. And the superintendent will have his goals to you by December 20th. You can look those over and consider those and make any suggestions that you would like to me or any other member of the Curriculum and Personnel Committee, and I will collate them and get them out to everybody on the committee so we can look at them and discuss where there seem to be some common ideas. Thank you. And the date where they would be due to me, and I guess Kristen should get them as well, would be January 2nd. That'll give us 3 or 4 days to get those together.
So much for vacation.
Well, I know. Nope.
We have to have done.
What time is that meeting? 6:30? Thank you.
Great, thank you, Karen. Budget.
There isn't a lot to add to what Tanya has already said, other than John and Tanya are working with the principals from each school at looking where they can make efficiencies. And next week, I think we'll probably hear about some of those.
Okay.
That's it.
Great, thank you. Policy? Where's that?
I'm right here. Hi. So we have been meeting a lot and making slow progress on everything. We did have a meeting with our PVREA reps and Russell to talk about exit interviews and have decided to tweak the policy and not get rid of it. So we'll be working on that moving forward. Thank you for voting for the MASC money so that we can work with them to update all of our policies that need it. And we're very close on user fee policy. We're just waiting for some procedures from administration, and then hopefully we'll be able to bring that to the full committee next month for a vote.
Great.
We are also meeting on January 6th at 4:30.
Thank you. And then district agreement. Mike, John, I know you were both at the last district agreement meeting.
I can talk about it.
Oh, and yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to exclude you.
No, that's okay. So we got the district agreement back from the state with the changes, and Russell was at our last meeting to go over the language that the state wanted included. We got through the whole agreement. He needed to work on some of the language around the budget with transportation and debt and how that was included. And that information's been emailed back out. So I think that's the last step really for the subcommittee to approve those changes. And then it will go back to DESI and can come to the school committee.
Great, thank you.
Does that sound right, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about wording, basically. The stuff is there, it's just making the correct.
Okay. All right. New business. We have discussion and vote on the MRSC for annual dues. here.
And that was part of my report. And basically, because they form the nonprofit, there's costs associated with that. So they're asking districts that are members to contribute $750 annually to support, the costs required to operate as a nonprofit.
How many districts are there altogether?
I don't have a number offhand, but
I think it was 750, didn't you say?
No, I'm sorry, the number of districts. It's pretty much all the superintendents in districts in Franklin and Hampshire County. So I don't have an exact number, but.
Okay.
Pretty much Western Massachusetts.
Wow.
I second.
Okay.
And that would be added to our budget for next year under our professional administration dues and subscriptions where we pay the MASC and that kind of thing.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Okay, perfect. Moving on. Discuss rural aid needs and recommendations and vote.
John, do you want me to go over
Yeah,
that, or do you want to talk about
if you want.
the process we went through first?
Oh, you can go over it, that's fine.
All right, so just like last year, we advised the administration, the principals, curriculum directors, special ed, et cetera, of the funds that were available, including technology. And we met a few times, talked more collaboratively than the process that happened last year about where the district's going now that we have a curriculum coordinator, what are some of the needs to get us in line, and really worked as a team to put this together. The total funds that we have for this year, John mentioned, the total we've received is $240, 90 of that was last year, and we've got $150,898 this year. So of that, the requests that came in were for textbooks and curriculum resources. So this would be updating our textbooks and any other curriculum resources that might be needed to get us in line. Ariel's working with all the principals right now to actually figure out what they're going to buy this year and what they're going to buy next year with the funds requested for the textbooks to get us caught up and back where we need to be, because we've gone without for far too long in that area. But with her being on board, it's making that process easier to get through. Professional development, unfortunately, I'm kind of take the brunt for this. When we did our budget last year, professional development was something that I really didn't understand enough. And we also had principals that weren't really sure. We were in the middle of negotiations. So the professional development budget was really only funded for college classes based on the amount of teachers that were taking college courses in the past and what the new negotiated amount was. It didn't leave room for conferences, workshops, and that type of professional development that needs to be happening across all of our teachers. So there was a request for $20,000. They have divvied up that amount amongst themselves, and they're going to track that and make sure that they're spending within the amounts that each of the schools are allotted. There's a literacy committee stipend that was requested. I don't know if Ariel's there. She could probably talk a little bit more about that. But one of the things that the district in our curriculum plan is trying to get up to speed with is where we're at with literacy, and having this stipend will allow us to form a committee with staff outside of their normal day to talk about where the district is moving with their literacy initiative. Pays for instructional assistants to attend professional development. Our instructional assistants are not part of the afternoon Friday professional development that occurs, and we feel like we'd like to be able to have them attend some of those or some of the full district professional development workshops that happen, so that they can be up to speed with what's going on in our buildings as well as the teachers. So that has been a request kind of for quite some time, but since we have the funds with the rural aid, we thought this was a good place to ask for that. Technology, we put in $30,000. That's going to help us speed up that 3-year implementation plan. Tyler was obviously part of this discussion. We wanted to make sure that he felt like if we allotted these funds, that he could implement this along with the things that are already in the budget for this year. And this will essentially get us 3 additional Chromebooks and supplement the teacher device budget. Every single one of our teachers in this district is in dire need right now of a new device, so that along with the Chromebooks for the students is going to be the priority this year for the technology. Repairs and maintenance district-wide, this was kind of a plug number, but we wanted to make sure that we had between $40,000 and $50,000 available so that when our new facilities director comes on board, he has sufficient funds to get the buildings where they need to be so that we don't have our towns having to front capital costs for some items that may have not gotten done because of our budget constraints in the past few years. So we're trying to get our buildings where they need to be and get some things addressed so that we don't have more expensive costs that come from not taking care of them. $10,000 was requested for the PVRSD auditorium sound system. The sound system in the auditorium is not only in much need of replacement, but it's also out of compliance. So I have all the information on that from Kevin, but it's something that needs to be done. And we have a quote from the company to do that, but it expires at the end of December. So we need to move on that. And the last thing was a firewall upgrade. We pay for a firewall through FortiGate every year, but we were not in compliance with the current one that we were operating and the hardware for child internet safety. I don't know if that's the exact wording. I do have an email from Tyler as well to back that up. But this is something that absolutely has to happen. I think he's actually in the process of making this happen. But instead of taking away from other needs of the district that were already budgeted and the district tech annual renewals and hardware, the request is coming here in our rural aid as a one-time upgrade for that so that we can be in compliance and not have all the firewall issues that we've had in the past in all of our buildings. And that's it.
All right.
Does anyone have any specific questions?
Yes. Can I just ask, how much for the firewall upgrade? How much for the firewall upgrade, Tanya?
The firewall upgrade is the $8,755, but this is a one-time cost that will get us through quite some years. It's been long overdue from what I understand. I think it needed to be done when Tyler was in the district as a technician a few years ago, and we've just been biding our time, but we're out of compliance with the protection for child internet safety at this point in time with our old firewall hardware and subscription that we've had.
Thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome.
Pat has a question as well.
Tanya, what's the total of that? Do you have that total?
The total it's in your school, it is in your school committee packet, but it's
I don't have that that
it's
page.
the last page of your 20-page school committee packet that was emailed out on.
She's got it right there. You can just give it.
I've got it, okay. All right, so, okay, I have it here. I'm looking at it. Thank
You
you.
guys should have the full breakdown of that available. And as we go through the year, if we find that we don't need as much for textbooks or technology or whatever, we would continue to come back like we did last year with voting changes and the uses for these funds as they change as the year goes on. But we wanted to make sure to get at least a base vote out there for the needs of the schools right now. And if there are changes in the funds, not as much as needed, then we would vote, as the year goes on, just like we did last year. But we want to start being able to use these funds because they have to be used up by June 30th.
Okay. David has a question.
Well, that was one of my questions. Do we have to spend it all this year?
Yep.
Can we supplant otherwise appropriated items in our budget so as to effectively create more reserves in our general fund? Could we use it to supplant something we were planning on paying for out of the budget, use something that way?
The intent is not to supplement your budget with it. The intent is to use it for one-time needs of rural schools that you have not been able to support with a decreasing enrollment and budget constraints that have been happening across rural Massachusetts. what happened last year, though, when we got to the very end of the year, there might have been a couple bucks here or there left in, say, technology, or one of the other things that we had actually already paid for in the budget. So I did move minor dollars, I mean, maybe $400 or so from the general fund budget to the rural aid, but it was all for things that were being funded both by the budget and the rural aid dollars.
Does that answer your question?
And it does have to be used by June 30th, and it's in a separate special revenue fund, just like last year, because we didn't have the numbers until after July 1st this year.
All right. I think David did you have another question, David?
Well, I wonder what your sense of our reserves, if we were to be faced with a unanticipated special needs cost, or something that could hurt our bottom line that isn't budgeted. So what do we have built in the budget at this point that could cover that? Because I would say
Special needs is our biggest area of viability, obviously. We did budget, as part of the budget this year, $50,000 for an additional out-of-district tuition if we were to have somebody come on that needed to be placed. And then we also have about 20,000 additional in circuit breaker that we're going to receive this year. So we're able to expense more money into the circuit breaker for tuition than the general fund. So we've been able to use some of that tuition budget to help us offset some additional special needs aids. And we did carry over a circuit breaker balance of about 90,000 last year. I think currently the amount left in that is about 80 with some of the changes in the out-of-district tuition this year. So we do have some cushion there. That circuit breaker money does have to be used the year after to see, so it can't be carried forward more than a year.
Mike has a question.
Tanya, regarding that 50,000 that you just mentioned, when would that become available if somebody didn't come in?
So right now, the tuition budget has been adjusted to count for just what's being put into the general fund budget. So we've essentially already used that up because we did have increases in our out-of-district tuitions, and we did have another student that came on, a preschool student that needed an out-of-district placement. So that has actually already been utilized in this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
But I will say we are trying to bring that student into the district next year rather than an out-of-district placement. It would require an aide on top of the preschool teacher, but Chris is working on that.
Okay. David has another question.
I just want to make sure I understand what I think I heard, which is that the 50,000 you described as contingent funding available has actually been committed.
Correct.
So
right now for special ed, what we have left is sitting in circuit breaker. So if we have additional special ed costs during the year, what would happen is you would request a transfer from the tuition line to cover that, and we would be using more of our circuit breaker funds to cover those tuitions. Because at this point in time, the circuit breaker is only for tuitions. There was a vote in the Student Opportunity Act thing that just came out a couple weeks ago where they're looking at making that available to cover not only out-of-district costs, but the special ed transportation that goes along with it. So we're waiting for a final word on that, because that may be able to help us next year too.
All right, Jess has a question as well.
So that's the $80,000 left over from last year's extra 90?
So it's what's left over from last year's 90, and some of it has been eaten into with increases over what we had planned for in the out-of-district tuitions. Like one of the schools' out-of-district tuitions went up about $10,000 over last year, which was more than we had anticipated.
Do you have a bottom line number on that number?
Did you hear her,
So the
Tanya?
circuit breaker, like I said, I don't have the exact number. I calculated it last week with Chris. I believe it was like 88,720 that we had, if I remember off the top of my head, left in circuit breaker.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Tanya regarding this? Okay. So we do have a vote on the agenda, Tanya?
Yes.
Okay.
So once this is voted, then Ariel can work with the principals and start working on getting some of this ordered, and Tyler can start working as well. and Kevin can get the auditorium system running, and we'll have funds so that our new facilities director will be able to get busy when he comes on board in a couple weeks.
Okay. Mike has a question.
I was going to
Or-
make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to, for the FY20 rural aid use of funds of the $150,898 be accepted.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay, all right, motion passes. Next on the agenda is discussion and vote for the superintendent to explore regionalization.
Okay. So I asked that this be put on the agenda. In my discussions with other Franklin County superintendents and even Hampshire County superintendents, one thing we're asking the school committees just to take Tanya, yeah, we're still having them. I like that when I speak, yeah. Is really just to ask school committees, for an official vote to explore regionalization options. Obviously, I've been involved with discussions. I've met twice in this past week with Mike Sullivan from Gil Montague and Jordania Harper from Greenfield. Things we're talking about are, for example, Greenfield's purchasing additional transportation. We're looking at maybe using their fleet for special ed transportation for our students. If that were to work out, that would be a significant cost savings to our district. You were looking at possibly sharing technology, among our school districts. There could be other specialist positions. For example, if we needed somebody maybe half-time and there was another need in another district half-time, we could work on, sharing a position there as well. So the conversations are happening, and we're all just asking our school committee just take a vote to explore different options and see what might be feasible. It's just more of a formality. The conversations have been taking place.
Go ahead, Pat.
How is that different from the ongoing committee that's been set up with a 30-member committee that David's on and I'm on and I think Abby's on? 18 people, okay.
And maybe, I don't know, or David wants to speak to it. You're on the committee, and I think that committee's set up to...
I would love to. I
Yeah.
think it would be great if the committee would vote to support us looking into regionalization, because we came, the pioneer towns came to this by way of a town meeting and select board vote, and the school committee hasn't. And I like, John, that it's broad, that it's not just a Gil Montague, that we look at our options.
Right.
And this kind of buy-in makes me a lot more comfortable devoting the kind of time that's going to be involved in this exercise.
So I wanted to have other people here that it was different, so thank you, David.
Mike?
Regarding the other school district and city that you've been discussing this with, has their school committee voted on this, or will they be voting on it?
They voted to have their superintendent explore regionalization options, but there's nothing more specific that's been voted on. I mean, this is just in conversation. I'm just, that we've been discussing this.
Go ahead, Abby.
I also believe that their school committee did vote to form the committee that all of our towns voted for as well.
That's correct.
Gil Montague.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right. Go ahead, Mike.
I'll make a motion that we support the superintendent to explore regionalization options.
And I'll second that.
All right. Is there any other discussion? No? All in favor? Okay. Perfect. Old business.
There's room on that committee.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I hear you.
Staff changes?
Send out a staff change.
The staff, I'm gonna call it a directory. was provided at our last meeting.
But what about changes?
So have there been any changes?
There's no new changes. Just our facilities director is officially starting January 2nd.
And who's that?
It's Kevin Seaman. He's actually just purchased a house in Northfield, and he's coming to us from the Amherst Regional School District.
You told us that.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Miscellaneous updates.
Excuse me, talking about that. In the past, when we have staff changes, we've had a listing by school and what their position was. And this time, and an address, so that if we want to call them at home for any reason or whatever, and oftentimes you do. And this time, we just had a listing of people and
Who replaced?
and so it was like half a list of what we're used to. And maybe that's legality, or maybe it was just not knowing what we were used to.
Russell stated that we were not allowed to provide their address, their personal
Okay.
contact information,
But if-
because that would be considered public.
Okay, but if we could know what position they hold, because reading down through, I didn't know if they were teaching preschool in Northfield or if they were teaching calculus at Pioneer.
Okay.
And that would be nice, I think, for us to know.
So for the January meeting, we can have that compiled.
That would be great.
Under other business, there was some inquiry regarding, can everybody hear me? There was some inquiry regarding process for school committee meetings in the event that we had a weather delay or school cancellation, and how that continued over to our meeting. So would anyone like to have a discussion on that?
In the past, if school's been canceled, then usually the committee meeting that evening was canceled.
Last year, it seemed there was some confusion around this, and I was the one that approached Kristen about maybe having a discussion about it at this meeting, so that we all know what the correct protocol is.
Who knows what's correct?
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I'd like to have John robocall all of us.
I'm okay.
Can you add
Oh,
us?
boy.
to the robocall?
That's okay.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, I mean, I feel comfortable, like, if there's no school not having the meeting, just because obviously we're canceling school for a reason, and safety, and,
Right, okay. I think as long as it's clear to everybody.
or I could give you a 2-hour delay, and we could start this at 9.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I
David.
hadn't thought of that, John. That's a good idea. I wonder.
Hold on 1 second, Tanya.
I kind of like when you make a plan, you keep it if you can. And weather is so variable. I don't begrudge you deciding whether to hold school or not, because the weather in Leiden and the weather in Warwick, I mean, there was a 1 foot difference in the amount of snow in north versus south Warwick. But by evening, things can be very different.
That's right.
And so I think you just ought to make the call, not because school was called off, but because the storm continues or the conditions are such.
That's
But
what
if
gets
if things are cleaned up, I think we should meet. It's hard to reschedule. It's hard to make up.
Go ahead.
And along with what David just said, the storm could start late in the afternoon. There might have been school that day, but it might preclude a lot of us from getting there. So
And that's when we need the robocall.
that's
Well,
right.
I was just going to say, I think it's important for everyone to be aware of the communication that we use, whether it's through email or phone calls, so that people are aware that a meeting is canceled, or it's, if you don't hear otherwise, it's on. Go ahead, Jess.
So whatever decision we make, could we say that both would happen? An email and a phone call?
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Okay. Okay.
Can I just ask a quick question? If it is actually canceled for bad weather, is there a way that we could have a email vote for the accounts payable warrant? Because if not, then those checks have to be held until the school committee meets again. committee members could come in individually after to sign.
Go ahead, David.
That's the way it would have to happen.
Yeah.
That would be a open meeting violation to vote by email.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we would have to then,
Come to the school.
correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure there's a procedure in place for that, because we don't want to be getting checks for a month for vendors, because that's the one thing that, happens at the school committee that has an effect on a lot of people. So.
Go ahead.
I know there are towns that put their payment warrant on the select board agenda and vote it and then sign it, but it's not, by my understanding, legally required. It is not what we do here. We just, as individuals, sign the thing. So we ought to check with Russell. It might be possible, email no, but in this case, approving a warrant payment, a faxed signature, I think would have legal bearing, as much legal bearing as walking in the building and signing it. So check with Russell. That might, of course, who's got a fax machine today?
Well, I'll follow up with Russell and ask him what the potential options are, and then can let everybody know. That way we're not holding things up for you as well, Tanya.
Thank you.
Oh, Karen and then David.
Okay, I just wanted to bring up that at our last meeting, we said we would put the question of Leiden identity at Bernardston Elementary School on this agenda, and it is not here, and I think it would be good for the public at least to know where we are in that process, and that I'm not sure exactly what that is. I think it's policy committee, is that right? No?
So
We never really decided what we would do,
There
except
were-
put it on the agenda.
there were some questions about whether it was documentation and how it would be recognized and actually signage at the school. I
Right.
feel like there were two topics.
That's right.
Signage at the school is a town matter, and the newsletter as well was also in that other column. So that is a very lengthy discussion, I think, that's going to happen. And John, we can add it for January.
Yeah, I'm making note of it.
Was that one of the meetings we were talking about possibly having a separate meeting for, when we were talking about doing 2 meetings a month? Would that be something that we could hold a special meeting for, so that topic could be discussed at length?
Go ahead, Abby.
Well, I don't have an answer to that specific question, if someone wants to answer that first.
Nope.
No? Okay. So I just wanted to say that since our last meeting, at events that I have been at, like the Turkey Trot, and I can't remember what other events I've been to, but but I definitely feel that administrators have made a very good point. And I know, John, I remember you specifically saying this at the Turkey Trot, thanking the Bernardston and Leiden PTO members and making the effort to make sure that Leiden is not forgotten at these events. So that's not a solution, but it's a start. I just want to recognize that.
That's great.
Okay, so it will be on the agenda?
January.
In January.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Anything else? Go ahead, David.
It might be possible for the warrants signature to implement some kind of electronic signature system like VeriSign, which I use with one organization.
I'll add that to my question to Russell. You said VeriSign is the platform that you use?
That's the one I'm familiar with.
Okay.
It's really grueling to set it up, but once you have, it can almost occur.
Okay, all
Of
right.
our signatures.
No.
Go ahead, Abby.
I'm gonna have to look this up, and I'll email to confirm this. But I remember when Jess and I went to the Charting the Course, they talked, I believe, about school committees designating one person to sign the warrants, so that not everybody had to come in, or not everybody had to sign it. And I cannot remember off the top of my head exactly what that was, but I'll look that up and let you know.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. Go ahead, Bob.
Our council told us that by vote of the select board meeting, one person could come in and sign.
That's
Okay.
what I remember.
All right.
That's the easiest.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'll get back to everybody once I have that information from Russell. Good and welfare. Go ahead.
I would like to recall all those 3-ring Horace Band binders, because we're continuing to work on it, and I don't want stale information out there. So if, drop them off at the school or
Okay. Get them to you.
appreciate
The
it.
designated person.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Anything else good in welfare? Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, January 9th, 2020, at 7 p.m. here at Pioneer. And regarding the next item on our agenda, those individuals who have written letters of complaint wish to no longer move forward in that area, so we will not be going into executive session. Therefore, that is the last item on our agenda. Okay?
I would move that we adjourn.
10 minutes of 9, are you kidding me?
Bob, so do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you, everyone, and I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday.
Happy holidays,
Merry Christmas.
everyone.